Hi, I'm Dean Sage.
And I'm Jack Hervin.
And this is Show Me Your Deck,
a podcast where we explore the intersections of oracles and chakras,
using our original decks to create new insights. Episode 52, here we are.
Here we are.
It's a nice number, 52.
Yeah, I just rebooted my computer. I've got stuff flying all over the screen. So if I'm like looking like a deer in headlights, that's why. But here, I'm so happy to be with you on episode 52.
The Gremlins almost got us today. We haven't recorded in like 3 weeks, I think, because I had school, and then I think we did a work weekend. So the Gremlins had a chance to kind of nest and move about and get themselves in trouble while we were gone. And then they manifested themselves. We had to completely restart your computer just to get it to recognize your microphone, which I don't understand why that's so hard. Like, I really don't. It's just do it. Just recognize it.
Well, and then it didn't want to recognize my headphones. I was like, what? It's just a simple jack.
Yeah, it's I should have gotten you like the bigger, more impressive thing. But I was like, I'm on a budget. Let me just, get something that's. And I read reviews. Don't trust reviews.
No.
So.
I don't know what I was going to add to that. The kitten scampered away. I don't know what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's fine. We can stop talking about our gremlins, although they were present, but I think we've exercised them. Or at least made nice with them. Did we offer them little treats? I don't know what you did. Did you try
I sprinkled rat poison everywhere. Get out.
Oh my God.
Sorry. We have to know our audience. I sage smudged. It was very cleansing and organic. But the gremlins are gone for now. So Here we are.
Let's roll a dice and get a deck.
All right, here comes the tetrahedron of doom. Number 4.
All right.
So these will be the haiku. This is the perceptions deck. And let me get this little piece of equipment out of the way. All right, now the number, we're going to get number... I'm always confused by this between 6 and 9. Is the dot up or down?
The dot is down.
So if the dot is down, then this is 9.
Okay.
All right. So let's see what we've got here for number 9. That's going to be in the second cycle. So it's going to be orange on something. Here we go. It's orange on yellow. This is I feel metal, and it is intersecting with I do fire. So now we finally get some of that molten metal you're always talking about.
Here it is.
Here it is. So, no, that would have been 6. Or no, it's not this one. Now that I'm reading the haiku, but we'll make do. This is apt iron, wrapped zeal, preparing opulent meal, savoring ordeal. Apt iron, wrapped zeal, preparing opulent meal, savoring ordeal.
Is it zeal or deal?
Zeal.
Zeal with the Z. Okay.
Zeal with a Z.
Before we go on, I just have to point out that if this was molten metal, it'd be number 9 would be 9 circles.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh. Now I'm trying to remember which one. There's one that's magma. That's fire and earth, but I don't remember which order. And then the molten metal, that's metal and fire. I just don't remember. It must be in the fire sequence then. Maybe number 21.
Oh, that's a good number. All right. So nothing is coming straight to mind off the haiku for me.
It's 21. It's 21. That's the inversion of this one is the one that's molten metal.
Okay. Yeah, nothing's coming straight to mind for me on this one. What kind of vibe does it give you?
For me, this is about being prepared. So you have your instinct, your feelings, your sensations, your little voice speaking to you, and you have the fire of action going along with it. The image from the haiku is for cooking. So the idea that you first warm the skillet and you have your ingredients, you prepare everything, and we were just, I don't remember what the context was. We were talking about recipes recently, and if you are following recipes, then you aren't surprised by anything because you already got the ingredients lined up. So it's about preparing before doing.
Now, I do have to push back on that a little bit. So there's cooking, right, where there are surprises and improvisation is encouraged. Mm-hmm. And then there's baking, where...
Yeah, baking, you don't want to improvise with that at all.
That's a scientific inquiry.
No, they've got the chemistry of like the yeast down to every nuance. So yeah, that's the idea, is that when your instinct is giving you a direction and you have a sense of being prepared to act, then the foresight of knowing what you're getting into is helpful so that you don't, go astray, get hurt, get lost.
So patterns, right? Recipes are patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Is this about, reliving patterns? Is there sort of a cyclical nature to this?
Well, there's a cyclical nature to everything in this particular system. For this intersection, when I was writing this, I think I was in the process of, was I preparing to move? I think I was. I think one of the reasons I got pulled in this direction with this intersection is that I was preparing for a big move. And I didn't know if it was going to be another apartment in Charlotte or if it was going to be cross continent to Portland, Oregon. But I actually finished writing the book in Portland, Oregon. And so it was on my mind a lot, and all the steps that were involved in making something like that work. So the idea that there are plenty of instances in your life where you can improvise and that's all fine. However, as part of a stable, ongoing, cyclical day-night cycle of getting through life safely, there are ways in which you can wisely prepare and anticipate the problems that you would have if you weren't paying attention. And you can avoid a lot of pain that way by simply being prepared. So listening to your instinct and being aware before you act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely getting a bit more baking. Even though, cooking kind of works too. Cause like if you're going to cook a meal for an event, like, how many you're cooking for, you have recipes that, you can parcel out the right amounts.
Yep.
Even if you're doing something to taste, it's still within a framework, right? You know what taste you're trying to create.
Well, and also the idea that cooking to scale, not all recipes multiply easily. Just because it's 2 cups of this at 1 serving doesn't mean it's 4 cups at 2. You don't always double recipes and come out with a good result. You have to understand the nuances of what you're preparing for.
I'm obviously eggs. Eggs are always the divisor, because you can only have a whole egg, right? You can't necessarily do half an egg. You could try. But
how would you even do that? That's weird.
I don't know. We'll have to ask a master baker but in
its raw state, how would you do that?
You really can't. That's the whole thing. Like, you'd have to whip it, measure it, and then put only half of that in, I guess. I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind. But I'm not a baker. I am not a baker. I do not bake. My spouse bakes. And it's funny because so building furniture is where it comes out. This is like, if we've ever had fights, it's usually over building furniture, because I'll just look at the pieces and I'll kind of glance at the instructions. I'll be like, oh, okay, I know how this goes together. And they're like, no, it says step 1 is this, and we need to do this. But I'm like, but if you do that, then this is going to get in the way when we get to step 5. And they don't believe me. And then it gets in the way when we get to step 5. So usually it's like, you go build it or I'll go build it, but we're not building it together.
As long as the result is the same.
I did feel my way through one construction. This does happen sometimes, but I did put the doors on backwards. So like there's a little tiny hole where the magnetic clasp is supposed to go. So when you close it, like that's where the magnet attaches, and
Right.
it's on the outside. And every time I see it, I'm like, okay, sometimes you do need to follow the directions.
I don't know why this is coming across. It's not necessarily about following directions, but it is about planning. When I moved to the current apartment, some friends helped me put the TV up on the wall here, and it's a married couple, and I just stood back. I sat back and got out of the way because they were getting very, lively with each other. I was like, nope, I'm going to stay back here. I'm not getting in the middle of this. It's, you do you. And one was saying, go bring this side 6 inches down. And the other was saying, no, bring this side 6 inches up. It's the same thing. It was the exact same thing. And I was like, I'm not going to say anything at all. It's the same result.
We're okay hanging things. We have that pretty down. I do the level, and they kind of help spot me. And that's the funny part. That's where I'm exact. Mm-hmm. Like if I hang something, like I don't do it by eye usually. I will like get up there, I'll get the level, and I'll like make sure that everything is perfectly in line and measured out, because we like big artwork on our walls. Mm-hmm. So we got a couple of big pieces, and they require multiple nails or tacks or whatever it is we're using. And I'll be very precise about that, because like level is so important to me. Like if something is not level, it will just eat me.
Well, what it sounds like in our conversation is that there are situations when you have to be very precise and situations when you don't, but generally speaking, understanding what you're doing and being prepared helps. Mm-hmm. And so going forward into the next cards, I would say this is a reminder to consider that whatever the cards are saying, that you understand clearly how you want to accomplish it, and then think about a plan rather than just improvise. Just see what it's like to plan.
I mean, I like that this is the intersection of intuition and action, because that does sort of speak to like a gut reaction, right? Like that's sort of where it is, but we're tempering that with the idea that there's a plan. And I think we forget sometimes that just because we have gut reactions doesn't mean that they like, sometimes you can instinctively do the plan, right? Like if you practice, then when it comes to time to do it, you can just follow the practice motions, right? You can follow and intuit your way through a situation because you discovered the recipe, right? You've discovered the pathway through that. Obviously I'm thinking a lot of dance. Like yesterday I got a lot of dance on my Instagram feeds. And that's the kind of thing where like when you get to the performance, you sort of feel your way through it because you've practiced it so many times. And what I've found as a performer is that if you think too hard about it when you're performing, you mess it up. But if you just feel your way through it and let that muscle memory and practice come to bear, you have a much more intuitive and more expressive understanding of what's happening.
Yeah, because with something like that, with dance in particular, you are creating neural pathways, as it were. And that's why you can quote unquote feel what's supposed to happen next, because it's almost like it's like a punch card way back in the day when they punch holes in cards and stick them in computers and run the program that way. That's kind of what's happening here. You made a punch hole card, and you just need to slide it into the computer and let the computer run. But that's not the same as plugging in the computer and just telling it to make something.
Yes. It's not GG.
No. So of course we want to trust our instinct, but it doesn't mean our instinct is always right. We just have to be considered.
Well, it's, checking in on an instinctive process, right?
Well, I guess what would probably be better is the consideration is making sure that the information you had when you had your instinctual response was accurate based on all the all the information, some of which you might not have been aware of upon your first impression. So thinking before you act gives you time, where possible, to consider whether or not you are working with enough information to trust your gut, or whether you need to adjust based on a new gut response, based on the new realizations.
I'll counter that with agree, however, also clarify that there are a lot of times where you're overthinking. And you do just need to trust. Like if your gut tells you you're in a bad situation, don't overthink that. Just go with it. Like it's recognizing patterns in a way that you're not consciously aware. But if you are in that situation and your gut's like, it's time to go, like grab your stuff and go, analyze it later. And maybe you were wrong, right? But there are cases, I think, where like we really do need to just trust in our intuition as well. So I think that's it, baking and cooking. Like we keep coming back to that. Cooking is much more instinctive than baking is, and sometimes sometimes you need to be a cook, sometimes you need to be a baker. I think that's kind of what I'm hearing. There's a duality, a dichotomy to what we're talking about.
Yeah, knowing what kind of situation you're even in and the degree to which it requires consideration. Sometimes you need to go, sometimes you need to think, but it's a balance, and it's situation specific.
All right, well, let's get more specific. Let me grab my deck here. Fine. Ooh, this is a lot of energy. I do actually have my amethyst pyramid though, so I should be channeling much more energy. All right, here we go. Oh, we have the 5 of flames. We're sticking with third chakra here. Do not fear the flames of others because they burn. Do not fear the flames of others because they burn. 5 has a lot of conflict numerologically. There's tension with the 5. Same thing with the 7. For some reason, the 5 and the 7 in numerology have a little bit more tension to them. I find 5 very even myself. Like I don't quite subscribe to the numerology on it. And I love 7 because 7's just a great prime number. But yeah, in numerology, there's a little bit more tension to this. So this really is talking about the 5 of flames, which is the 5 of wands in the tarot. And there is often sort of a conflict that it's talking about, like an interaction, maybe like competing for limited resources. And I kind of wanted to pivot that a little bit because I don't like that idea, like the zero-sum game. I don't really feel like that exists in a lot of places, at least like culturally, sociologically, that kind of thing. So yes, other people's flames are hot and they can burn you, but don't fear that process because there's a refinement that comes from that. And it's very funny. I have a group of 5 other people that I joined. I just started my doctoral program, and we got put in a group. And I'm going to be with this group for both years of the classroom program. Like they're going to keep us in this group, and it's so that we can better coordinate and get used to each other and build each other and like have a strong foundation to work from, a strong cohort, rather than just sort of like constantly being moved around. Because I think there's about 35 or 40 people in the class, so they wanted to have like a core thing. But we burned each other. Like it was our first weekend together. We'd never met each other, and we were in doing group projects, and there was tensions, right? There was misunderstandings, there was misconnections, there was flames of creativity, and they kind of we got a little burned by each other just in that process.
I think this comes off the first card quite well in terms of what we were saying about testing a situation and understanding it before acting and evaluating what's happening in your instinct. Because interacting with people requires so much nuanced consideration. Why is this person doing or saying this? Did I cause this? Does it matter? If I say this or that, how will this escalate or de-escalate? There's all these ways in which you're analyzing a moment, and knowing how to do that safely and smartly is what keeps these group dynamics running smoothly as much as possible. Sometimes you just can't get along with some people, but you evaluate that as well.
I agree. So if we're kind of taking the context of the cooking, the baking, the instinct, the recipe, there's, and it's okay to have external tension while navigating that, right? Like it's okay to have a conflict, disagreement. In fact, that's healthy, right? Like that's a very healthy thing. If everybody agreed on everything, we wouldn't get anywhere because there would be no new ideas. We would just keep doing what we've always done. I think that's the danger, right? That's the danger of the gut reaction, is that you keep doing what you've been doing. Nothing is there to intercept that. And I think, that's why education changes people, right? That's why interacting in big cities changes people. It makes people different when you have to kind of be in conflict or competition with others. And I think there is a healthiness to competition that makes it, makes you stronger, makes you better. When you have something to benchmark yourself against, you have something to kind of push yourself toward. And that can be good. I don't think competition is great in everything. Like I think collaboration is very important, but having a healthy amount of competition also, this is a species that made us better, right? Like that movement forward kind of comes from dealing with these interplays.
So looking at your card about not fearing other people's fires, if you are around someone who is ambitious or someone who is, I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but if you're around somebody who exudes a lot of that kind of light and energy, if it's not being directed at you, it's not being directed at something that's going to hurt you, then sometimes it's nice to be in the presence of somebody who puts out all that light and warmth. And they can be almost like a torch at the front of the group, showing what's going on in the shadows, and they're brave and they're courageous. And yeah, if you get too close, it'll burn you, sure, maybe. But think about all the other stuff that comes from being within the light of their fire. So competition and ambition they don't have to be bad. And if you already like those traits, then it's kind of preaching to the choir. How do you hold that torch up and show everybody not to be afraid of the shadows in the dark?
Yeah, there's an interesting combination of things happening, right? Like you said, the light is exposing the shadows, and that's definitely part of my sequence, is the idea of light and darkness and pathways forward and motion and movement, right? It's the third chakra. It's movement, it's action. And setting off on that action, your motion is going to bump up against others' motion, right? Like atoms do this all the time. They're atoms are like the reason that we have solid mass really comes from the energy of atoms interacting with each other and bouncing around and forming bonds and heat, right? Our bodies are hot. They produce heat, and that's because of these reactions, these interactions. So heat is life, and you have to have it to exist, and you have to have these collisions, and you have to have this warmth that comes from that in order to exist the way that we do. So it's a natural part of human beings.
Yeah, it's these dynamics between people are always so multifaceted, right? It's not even just a binary of burning or not burning. There's so many other ways to think about fire in terms of warming or burning or not burning or puffing out, or it's just the images are so facile. I love how they can be used to examine all sorts of situations.
So in the context of cooking and baking and recipes and intuition and things, it's okay to let your instincts guide you through these situations. Like we talked about that even before we pulled the 5 of flames. We talked about how sometimes you need to listen to your instincts and let your instincts motivate your actions. And there is an instinctive way, and I watched this with group dynamics. Like there is an instinctive way that people feel their way through a group dynamic. And I think that sometimes that's helpful, right? Like in moments of crisis, in moments of action is needed right now. The thinking your way through the dynamics can be counterintuitive, but at the same time, like if you are going to form a strong, lasting group, you do need to think through those dynamics, and you do need to kind of check your instinctual self when you're working that way, because then like a baker, you need to combine the ingredients in just the right time and just the right way. And if you do donuts, right? If you do cakes and cookies and all the wonderful things of life, and even on the cooking side, like you have to add in the wine at the right moment. You can't, it has to simmer off at the right moment. You have to glaze something before, or you have to saute something before you can do this in order to release that. There is definitely like an order of operations. So even if you are kind of cooking instinctively, like you're doing that from old patterns where you learned these patterns and understand how they work together. So, I'm getting a group dynamic thing off of this. So maybe you're with your group. Maybe, there's some challenges in your group. Not everyone's aligned. And this is kind of a call to feel your way through that, I think is what it's saying. Feel your way through, but check yourself as you go. Don't just assume that, your gut is the right way to go every time. Be conscious of what your instincts are telling you.
I don't have anything to add. That sounded good to me.
I'm actually feeling like we need the next card anyway. I think it's an interesting reading. We need some more context.
We're going to deck number 1.
Deck number 1.
Now we're going to get sassy. Let's see what you do with your instincts now.
All right.
All right. Number 20.
20. Okay.
So staying in fire, by the way. All right. So this is one away from the one I was telling you about, 21. So instead of fire intersecting with metal, we've got fire intersecting with earth. So yellow and red. I do and I am. How you take action, choices you make, how that's influenced by your sense of self. Okay? Are you ready?
I am ready.
I'm not sure you're ready. This one's sassy. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
No. No. No, no, no. No, you don't have to. No, you don't want to. And no, because no.
All right.
No. No. No, no, no. No, you don't have to. No, you don't want to. And no, because no.
So is this magma or is this...
Yes.
This is magma? Okay.
I'm pretty sure the haiku for this one includes pyroclastic flow. Pretty sure, yeah.
Okay. All right, that's evocative. Well, I mean, going along with our theme, right? Interaction, intuition, it's perfectly fine to negate something, to set a boundary, to be like, yep, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to follow you guys down there. That's okay. I don't have to have a rational explanation for it. I think that's kind of what I'm getting to, is I don't need a rational explanation. I just need to know that it's my boundary.
Well, that might be part of what happened in card number 1 when we had metal show up in the first place with instinct. If the answer is no, the answer can be no. I have found that in my own personal experience, I say yes to be polite when I really don't want something. And that's been literally very costly for me in many ways. And I mean literally in terms of money, not just, personal growth, but actual money, saying yes to stuff that I did not want or did not accept and yet remained present for. So if you're going back to something you said earlier, if your instinct is telling you no, 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 well, there's something incendiary happening there. There's a lot of fire happening there. You need to listen to that. That's one of those moments we were talking about before where sometimes your instinct will be screaming out loud. And you need to be aware of that when it's happening and give it good credence.
There is that moment where you understand what's going on and can see the path emerge. And I think that's kind of what we're looking at here is like, oh, no, I've been down that road before. And it's hard, especially in a group dynamic, to say no. Like you and I, like this whole podcast is based on yes and. It's, one-anding what's being said so that there's a flow, right? And I've had a podcast where I had someone that was just no, and it stops everything. It's not good for a podcast. However, there is times in life where it's important to say no. And, in a group dynamic, it's like, hey, do you want to do this? Like you could just be like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do that. But if you know that that's not right for you, it's okay to say no, but maybe this, right? So it's there's ways like, you and I don't always agree on everything. And it's okay to say, yeah, I think this. So no is an okay answer if you're still willing to engage. And I think that's the fire part of this. Like it's not cold no versus hot no. I think there's a difference between a cold no and a hot no. Like a cold no is like, oop, shut down, nothing left, no third chakra, no action, just the black hole, which are actually very hot.
This reading is very interesting because fire has shown up on all three cards so far. So this is definitely a reading that's trying to remind us about the choices we make and the actions we take. And what I'm hearing is that as much as possible, preparation can be very helpful. Don't be worried if somebody else is prepared to act before you. Don't be afraid of their fire. But if something's happening that you don't want to be part of, no, you can remove yourself from it. And these are all ways in which we are using and channeling our energy and our effort. So thus far in the reading, what I'm hearing is a reminder to be careful and specific and choosy about the way in which you interact with the world and people. Mm-hmm. So if you fritter your time away doing silliness that you don't want to actually do, well, stop. Do something else. Be mindful of your activities. Be mindful of your actions and your motion. When you say, I do, is it about something you actually want to do?
Yeah. You have groups, right? You have social groups, but that group is not 100% of your time. And in fact, you probably have multiple groups that you interact with. And being able to say no to one gives you the energy and focus to say yes to something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point because nothing about humans approaches anything near the infinite. You have a certain amount of time and a certain amount of energy and a certain amount of knowledge and a certain amount of experience. And that is rather like the currency of life. And where you invest and spend those resources will a lot of times dictate what kind of life you got. So where do you want to put your resources?
It's very, very important. You have a limited time in the day, in the week, in the month, in the year, and on the earth, right? You have limits. Everything about you is limits. Everything is bounded. And you only have so much fire within you. People call them spoons, but I think it's the same, metaphor can hold. Saying you only have a certain amount of fire, right? You only have a certain amount of energy that you can give. And some people's energy is very limited. And I think, if you have never experienced that, like if you've never experienced having limited spoons, limited fire, then you don't quite understand how important each decision can be. When you do have very strong limitations, you have to be very choosy about what you do. And I went through that recently with my injuries. Sometimes I had to be very choosy about what I would do in a day, and giving my energy to one thing meant not giving my energy to something else. So I think there can be a personal element to this, right? Something very internal, but I think that also external. You have to choose where your energy goes and who you give it to. And that can be a defining moment for someone, right? Like you giving your energy to someone can absolutely change the course of their day or their life. It may not make sense to you, but maybe your intuition's guiding you on, hey, I'm gonna give some energy to this person today. And I may never see them again, but I gave them some energy today. And that's a little fire that you set, a little spark.
It's, it's kind of funny because for some reason in our readings, I always think of fire as being on a torch. I don't know why I do that. But it's like you always think of molten metal when metal comes up. I always, in terms of fire, think of a torch first. But this is actually more like a little antique gas lamp where you can turn the dial up or down and the fire gets higher or lower and the oil reservoir is below. It's almost like when you can turn that fire up and down to all these different sizes and put out all this light and heat or not. But if you go out and somebody else, by doing what you just described, can light you back up, literally, like relight your fire, like give you inspiration again, inspiration to move, inspiration to do. And just being aware of when you want to have that kind of interaction with people and how much of your own fire are you going to gift and how much of it do you need to reserve?
Well, the gas lamp is a good example too, because we often talk about you can burn bright or you can burn long. Like we make it a dichotomy and you have to choose one or the other. But no, it's a spectrum, right? You can burn at different brightnesses and for different lengths of time.
Yeah.
And
you don't always have to be burning bright. You don't have to be constantly bright. You don't put that on yourself to always have to be the happy one, the active one, the one achieving all the time. You don't have to achieve all the time. Sit still. No.
You can just gutter. You can just have a little guttering flame, and that's okay too. Just a little gutter.
It's a very nice metaphor for the way in which we conserve or spend our energy.
Well, going back to cooking, I have gas range. Love gas range. Apparently, very bad, but I love a gas range. So I might be part of the problem there. But the flame height, right? The intensity, like you can't cook everything at 5,000 degrees.
No.
Some things are released by time, by simmering, by slow cooking, right? Like, I mean, the people love slow cooking, and the whole, I don't get the whole buried in the ground thing. Like, I mean, I get that it works. But like, that's a lot.
That's a lot
to create an underground fire and then bury it. Actually, in Iceland, they don't have to create the fire. It's already there. It's already underneath them. So they just bury stuff in pots in the volcanic active areas, and it cooks them up a meal. And it's
that's wild.
Well, there's my spouse loves this. There's the hot springs where if it becomes dangerous, so fast that you just get flash boiled.
Oh, so God.
Like there's really no warning. Like, so just at a certain point in time, because it's volcanic activity that's heating the springs, and if it shifts, right, and magma can flash boil like the water, and there's no escape. So I guess we're talking about burning bright, burning long. There's energy out there that maybe can erupt too. So I think that's something to maybe consider in all this, is that there's good time, right? There's good lengths of time. There's good amounts of energy, but you don't want to also just sort of flash boil either.
No. Again, as with the other cards, gauging a situation and doing what is specific to the moment.
I'm going to pull another card.
All right.
I have my little amethyst pyramid, which is surprisingly expensive, but worth it. I love it. Okay, here we go. We got one. Ooh, we're going high. We're going up to the crown chakra. You are ready to embrace what you have become. This is number 20, an awakening. You are ready to embrace what you have become. So this in the tarot, I'm actually gonna, it's 20. So it's the second to last. I can't think of what 20 is in the tarot. I gotta use my search here. No. There we go. 20 is judgment. I couldn't remember that one, but yeah, this is judgment. So this is in the original tarot. It's very Judeo-Christian. So this is like the rapture, or not the rapture. Sorry, this is the last judgment where the dead awaken, and then go to be judged. So that's a very Judeo-Christian way of looking at it. But that's the moment that we're having here is that sort of awakening, becoming. And this is just before the world card where the cycle begins again, right? Like kind of the reincarnation idea of the cycle continuing. And for me, like the cycle does, so the major arcana is the journey that the celestial takes. And then once they get to the final card, they repeat the cycle, right? But there's a spiral. They're getting ever closer to, and awakening, enlightenment. So this is like that step before you get to that enlightenment moment. This is you are ready to embrace what you have become. So this would be the judgment in the tarot. But for me, I took it to that moment of pre-enlightenment, or that place where you are just on the verge, right? Just on the threshold, that liminal state where you can become, but what you are already being, right? It's that moment before, but you've worked all the way toward it, right? You've encountered all of the lessons, and you've come to all the realizations, and you're just right there on the verge, ready for that final step.
Yep, you're at the doorway, waiting to take a step across the threshold into your destination.
Yes.
And that in and of itself is a process. And we've been talking, and in some ways, a bit of a recipe. What are your parts? What makes you up? And how did you mix them together? And what kind of a cake are you? So the idea for me is looking back at the first three cards and all these choices and actions and the way you understand it and how you interact with people, and how all of that informs who you are as a person and helps you become the best version of yourself who is ready to step across this threshold into the new way of being. But all of it results from the journey you took to get to the door. So your actions inform the way you move through life and how you experience growth.
This is the intersection of the crown chakra and the third eye.
Okay.
So that just we were lower chakras, now we're kind of upper chakras,
way up high, understanding all those experiences and actions, looking out from the third eye and understanding what you now perceive in the world because of your experiences and actions, and what that projects out into the broader universe, what the legacy of it all is.
Well, going back to the fire and the cooking, like this is the moment right before you remove the flame. Mm-hmm. Like this is where you've reached the fulfillment. So it's time to take the cookies out of the oven. It's time to turn off the heat and serve, the casserole or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the moment right before you remove the heat. So don't remove it early, right? Remove it exactly when you need to. And then you are ready to embrace what you have become, right? That's the message here. You're ready to embrace, you're ready to eat. You're ready to take it in. But don't quit too early. So we talked about no in the last one. That's fine, right? But also don't say no right when you're ready to cross that threshold. Sometimes fear is overtaking you, right? We have the root chakra come up in that intersection, right? That was the intersection of root.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right.
So fear can take you, and sometimes fear can be the no. Don't let fear be the no. Not when you're right here, ready, almost there.
Yep.
Don't let fear turn you aside.
Well, it's all that living, all that experience to come to whatever this particular moment is. Don't shy away from it.
Mm-hmm.
You're about to become whatever this is that you've been building toward. And you have to think, whatever this destination is, it must be the destination you wanted because you took the choices that brought you to this threshold. So why hold back now?
The liminal state is a fearsome state. The existentialists talk a lot about it. It's like standing on the edge of the abyss. Well, you mean you're here. It's time to shout.
Yeah, well, I mean, how'd you get to the abyss? You walked to it. That's why you're at the edge of the abyss. You took a journey that led you to the edge of the abyss.
And, according to the existentialists, this is just where we live. But sometimes confronting things like existence,
yeah,
you're ready to embrace that. You're ready to embrace the fear and trembling, as Kierkegaard would speak about. It's okay to be afraid right now, where you are, what you're encountering. It's okay to be afraid of that. It's okay to be afraid of what you think you might be becoming. That's okay. Embrace the fear along with the knowledge and the enlightenment. I think, maybe for true nirvana, maybe there is, a releasing of fear and commingling. Maybe it is part of the cocktail, right? It's part of the recipe. And understand, maybe that's what it is. Maybe, at a core, it's understanding, the fear of the abyss and jumping anyway. That brings you true nirvana. I don't know. I'm not there. And I can't speak to that, but maybe there is, maybe that's the intersection that you need to reach.
Standing on the edge of this abyss and waiting to jump in, I'm wondering if nirvana isn't when you jump at the highest part of your jump for that moment, that's nirvana. And you had to do everything that was required to get to where you are so you could have this moment of complete and total becoming into your new self. And then what happens? There's the fall. That's not bad. That's more motion. That's whatever comes on the other side of this moment. Now that you are this new creature, this new person, well, you still have life to live. You had your moment. I hope you enjoyed it. Now keep living. Go get another moment. Go get another moment. There's not only one abyss. There's not only one jump.
And oftentimes the abyss is just the fog, right? Oftentimes it's just obscuring.
Yeah, it's just the unknown, and the unknown is scary because there could be like Tyrannosaurus Rex in there. You don't know.
There be dragons.
Here there be dragons. Probably not, but you don't know.
That's the problem. You don't know. And I mean, this goes back to, we started with instinct, right? We didn't start with third eye. We didn't start with throat or, even crown. We started with instinct. And now, yes, we're up in the upper chakras and we're connecting with the wider world and the greater calling or being or whatever it is that's out there beyond us.
And understanding what the quote unquote purpose was for all this experience that led up to this high chakral moment.
Mm-hmm.
So we're standing up here high on the third eye in the crown, looking out at all this wondrous experience. And what was it all for? What have you learned from it?
I do find it interesting we haven't had heart or throat. So even though we've had interactions with groups, we've had saying stuff, we haven't actually activated those chakras in this reading. We're very full, right? We've got a lot of chakras active in this reading. But we didn't really touch on the heart. And I think that's kind of interesting in this because this wasn't about joy and sorrow, right? This wasn't about that sort of roller coaster of the heart, and we're balanced around it, right? We have the low chakras, we have the high chakras, we're balancing, but we haven't reached like the balance point. That's kind of interesting. The exclusion of it is interesting. The absence of it is interesting.
Whatever the next card is, I'm feeling like it's probably going to be what happens when you start to fall after the top of your jump. Here we are with this card, looking out from this high place. We're taking that jump. We're at the zenith, and whatever the next card is a reminder of what to do with the energy that comes from the fall into the next part of the experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the tower card in the tarot is coming up, which is in this sequence. It's in the crown sequence. It's sort of the moment where everything that you thought you had kind of crumbles, right? And all the things you thought you had built don't stand firm. Everything's kind of shaken up in a sudden explosive moment. But then that's okay because you needed those pieces to build what you needed to build, what you really need to build.
Yeah. So the rubble has freed up the pieces, the shapes and the rocks and the stones. They're all scattered around now for you to find and reassemble into something better, or at least more appropriate. And
gems, right? Gems come from this eruptive, volcanic movement, and the heat and the compression, and then it has to rise up, right? It doesn't just stay down there. It comes up to the surface and cracks open, and now we have amethyst, which I have in front of me.
Now we have flash boiled people in Iceland.
Yes, yes, we do.
But I said Icelanders or Icelandians? Flash boiled Icelandians. It sounds like something you'd get at a restaurant.
That is true. Actually, this was Rapture Week, the week before we recorded this, and there's a really funny comic to me that because it's like the mark of the beast on their forehead, and so everybody that was left behind has this barcode, and they're like, what is this? And they work on it, and they realize it translates to not fit for consumption.
No, God. Oh, did you see people were leaving their clothes on the sidewalk?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're 0 for 10, aren't they? How many times have they predicted this?
I don't know. And it says it can't be predicted, and that they still predict it.
It says very specifically no one will know the hour or the time or the place.
And that's it. The judgment card did come up. I mean, some people do view that card as speaking to the rapture. It's actually speaking more to Revelation, because the rapture, I don't even know if it existed when they made the original tarot deck. It's right in there. It's the timelines are very close. But no, this is about the actual living embodiment, right? The Jews believe that the body itself is resurrected. So that's why they don't do cremation, because then there's nothing to resurrect. So anyway,
that's one of the reasons why they burned witches at the stake and heretics at the stake, was that they couldn't resurrect.
So that was an interesting diatribe there, but there, that is the kind of the fear of the unknown. What does come next, right? What does happen next? Everyone's got their own anxieties about it, and they deal with it in different ways. And I guess the rapture is one way that they deal with it. But we all have to kind of face that. I'm very existentialist, if you guys haven't caught on to that by now. I'm a very existentialist philosopher, which is interesting because I'm, in a highly scientific quantitative program right now. Like most of the people that teach me are quantitative. Most of them are empiricists of some kind. They call themselves positivists. But I don't think that they're not philosophically, they're not positivists. Like Bertrand Russell was a fucking crazy man. He's kind of wackadoodle. Logical positivists. No, that's not you. You're not trying to boil everything down to a math equation. Like you allow that there's cultural differences. Like logical positives would be like, cultural relativism. Their heads would explode. So just because you think you can measure the world doesn't make you a positivist. It makes you an empiricist. But that's just me complaining about my teachers. No, there's definitely this limitus, right? This threshold, and it's okay to be afraid, but you still have to cross over it. And let's find out what happens when we do. Let's get our last card.
Okay. We're going to stay with the sassy deck. So whatever it is, it's served with a big, huge dose of yeah. 23.
So we're staying close.
Oh, well, how lovely is that? Here's your heart and throat.
Really?
Yep, on the same card. Look.
Oh, wow.
So this is green, wood, heart, I love, how it is influenced by aqua, air, I say, in the throat. So how the connections and relationships you make are influenced by the way you express yourself. Okay?
I'm ready.
See both sides of the board. Play yourself at chess. Listen as much as you speak. Let people disagree. See both sides of the board. Play yourself at chess. Listen as much as you speak. Let people disagree.
We had this one not too long ago.
I do. I recognize it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was looking back. It wasn't one of the last 4 episodes because that's what I've got on my notes screen here. So it wasn't one of those, but it was not too long ago that we had this. But this is an interesting place. It comes right back to the group.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this realization and you are given the ability maybe to see both sides of the board. Maybe you didn't have that before, right? Maybe you were very, self-contained for a while and it was hard to see beyond you. And then you have this moment of realization and now you can see beyond you. You can see to the other side. And the I say part, when in your statement here, where does the I say come in?
Let people disagree. Listen as much as you speak.
Okay.
Actually, seeing both sides of the board would be a way of exchanging with people as well.
So mediated, like seeing is mediated here by language, by talking.
Mm-hmm.
By saying.
See both sides of the board. Play yourself at chess. Listen as much as you speak. That's all air right there. Let people disagree. That's also air. But they're all green and aqua at the same time. Because they're all of these are looking at the way you connect to multiple perspectives.
I think that's important, right? I think you have to allow for other things to exist. I mean, we go back to the 5 of flames, right? Like other people are burning brightly too, right? And I think part of your realization, part of your judgment, right? So part of your resurrection or into the new cycle has to do with allowing there to be contrary stuff going on. You have to deal with the dichotomies, and the word's not going to come to me in this statement, but there's a word that I'm looking for and you're going to find it for me. I just know you are. But there's a way to deal with these anxieties, these things that
coping
you can't seem to reconcile them, like 2 things that seem irreconcilable.
Okay.
And yet you have to navigate that tension. I think that's part of being alive, part of growing as a human is having these tensions between two things that can't possibly both be right, yet they both seem to be true.
Mm-hmm. Simultaneously, in fact.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. You've taken all these actions, you made all these choices, you came to the edge here, you took the leap, you see all this stuff, and what do you learn? That everybody else is right too. How's that? How's that for all those arguments? That what that means then is that perception is reality.
I was going to say we're going to relativism here very quickly, and that's fine. That's where we are.
So if that is true, then until somebody admits and realizes they're wrong, they're never wrong. Right?
Mm.
If perception is reality. So when you start coming down off the height of this nirvana jump, you're coming down as this renewed person who is wise and recognizes that you have to keep going through this life with other people. That's where the green and the heart and the wood is coming in on this card. You're interacting with them all the way up here. And I guess it's a reminder to treat people as collaborators as much as they allow. You can't force anybody. You can't do that. But even when somebody doesn't want to be part of a group, they still have something to contribute. They might do it in their own way, but that's how you allow people to express themselves the way they best know how.
I think there's two things here. One is that everyone faces the existential tear differently. And in my worldview, that's what drives a lot of their actions, is how they face this existential dread, this realization of non-existence that looms over all of us, and how they deal with that is unique and personal. And at the same time, your fire is uniquely yours, and you don't have to give it to people, right? You in your own existential moments need to decide where your energy goes. And sometimes you can be compassionate, right? Like, I can understand the people that believe in the rapture. I used to be one of them. Like, I get where they are when that's happening. I get that that's, look at, that's great. I don't have to die to be rewarded, because that's the whole thing with Christianity. You have to die to be rewarded. And nobody wants to die. I mean, some people do want to die, I guess. But, in general, right, we, our instincts are to keep ourselves alive, right? Like, ooh, hot, don't touch. Like, our instincts are there to keep us alive. And, that the dealing with the fact that we won't always be is very frightening. It's very scary. And everyone deals with that. So I can be compassionate that you found your way to deal with it, and that's what you're doing. But I don't have to give you my fire. Like, I don't have to give you my time. I don't have to give you my energy. I don't have to give you my ears. Let people, you said, let people disagree. Go ahead, disagree. That's fine. Disagree. I'm going to be over here.
Well, that's part of seeing both sides of the board. Because when you see somebody else's perspective, you don't have to agree with them, but you can at least see why they're acting and talking and thinking the way they do. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but at least you are in a position to know how to look through their eyes and understand what they see. It doesn't mean you have to turn into them.
And it doesn't mean you have to play that game. Like,
no,
seeing both sides of the board. If that board's stacked, if that board's playing with missing pieces, you don't have to play that game. That's fine. Move on.
If they're making illegal moves, you don't have to deal with that. But when you play yourself at chess, that's even deeper, because now you're purposefully trying to take on the role of someone else and ignoring your own desires for the outcome. And it's a very interesting way to play chess, because you know what you wanted your white pieces to do. All you need is black to do this. Well, that's what white wants to do, and now you can't, not unless you have a reason to do it. So it's a way of not second guessing yourself, but examining what you think and really understanding what it is you're communicating out into the world. What are you expressing? Do you really understand the messaging? Because when I look out into the world right now in 2025, I don't think a lot of the people that I'm listening to, I don't think they actually understand what they're saying. You can hear their words, you can hear the emotive quality of their words, but if you take their ideas to their fullest extent, they would not want what they're talking about. And I think they need to play themselves at chess a little bit more. And I think they definitely need to listen as much as they speak.
I just have this kind of vision of a lot of people are playing chess to win.
Mm-hmm.
And I think very few people are playing the person.
Well, they're playing to win. They're not playing to learn.
So you don't have to play chess. You might be playing chess, but you can be playing the person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole different game.
Yeah. But there's definitely a difference between playing to win versus playing to learn.
And I think chess is interesting because it is a zero sum, right? Someone wins, someone loses, someone gains, someone, loses. There is, only one winner, right? There's only, there's two outcomes, right? You can have a stalemate or you can have a win.
Yeah. And stalemates are actually harder a lot of times because if you can force your opponent to stalemate you, then they haven't won.
Mm.
So that's why neither side gets points for a stalemate. So,
but I mean, not everything is that, right? So life is not just chess. There's a lot of chess in life.
Yeah, yeah. But there's a lot of strategy and a lot of expression and a lot of preparation, which goes back to the first card. And so if this is what's happening as you come back down to earth after your ascent into the zenith of nirvana, you're coming back down. And if this is what you're realizing, that's a pretty good lesson to allow people to learn in the way they need to learn while you preserve yourself and continue interacting with people from a position of empathy.
I think a lot of people see themselves as the pieces and not as the person.
The hand. They don't see themselves as the hand.
Yeah, they see themselves and that's very everything is a conflict. Then if you're one of the pieces, everyone is in opposition to you. If you're not with me, you're against me. It's very clear, right? White and black, red and blue. I don't know the colors, but yeah, everyone is against you. If they're not for you, they're against you. And every move that they make is a move against you. And you see everything in that. And that's a traumatic place to live.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really traumatic place to live because you're not safe. There is no safety. You could be taken at any moment. But if you're
any piece,
if you're the player, it's just a game.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting to know somebody. And the way they play is interesting, and it shows you parts of themselves. But at the end of the day, you both go home alive. Just because your king is killed doesn't mean that you were.
That's right.
We have a members only. It's patreon.com/DeanSageMedia. And there you can get extended episodes where you can hear our thoughts on the reading, how it relates to things going on in our personal lives, and just get a little bit more information about the reading. We do have a YouTube. It's Show Your Deck on YouTube. Our books and our decks are available at showyourdeck.com. Jack, where can we find you?
I'm at 49 Haiku on the intrawebses. That is the number 4, the number 9, HAIKU.com. And on Instagram, it is at 49 Haiku.
I am Dean Sage Media. Find me if you dare. Our show has an Instagram. It's at Your Deck. And we'll say goodbye.